Hello. Welcome, all of you, to this celebration of our city's life. And celebration is the right word. I don't think I ever knew anybody who had a more joyful spirit than Alcides. Always positive, always optimistic. And I don't know how many times I heard him say, I'm such a lucky guy. And he is. Yes, a lucky guy. Not only because he had all of you in his life, but also he made his life around music. And there was nothing more important to Alcides than music, I think. If he wasn't writing it, he was playing it. If he wasn't playing it, he was listening to it, talking about it, teaching it. It consumed his life, music. So it's a wonderful way to celebrate him, listening to some of his music. As you saw from the program, he had 93 pieces, so I had to pare that down a little bit. Alcides does like to have a marathon concert, but that would have been a little out of hand, I think. So we chose 4 pieces tonight that are quite representative of his work at different times of his life. The first piece is Organum, which has many lives. It exists as a piano piece and as an accordion piece, and as part of his piano concerto, he stole from himself all the time. But that's okay, the composer didn't complain. And Organum is an interesting piece, and I chose it because when I first met Alcides in the 60s, he was really interested in doing international music. He didn't want to be associated like just a Latin American composer, you know. But then with Organum, things began to change, and he began to plumb those roots a little bit. And the piece has little pieces of tango in it. You wouldn't get up and dance to it, but if you have sharp ears, you'll hear that it's a very well-known Argentinian tango that he then manipulated in his inimitable way. So that will be the first piece that you hear. The second piece is interesting because it's his last piece. You will see from the program he wrote it in 2022. And unfortunately, he never heard it in concert, but he did. Danielle did play it for him many times, vis-a-vis at home. So I thought, again, that was kind of a nice thing to think about. This was his last musical word, as it were. And the third piece you'll hear, it is percussion, because Alcides loved percussion music. He loved to play with sound and to have all sorts of different timbres and possibilities. And one nice thing about his music too, and Gina and I were talking about it earlier today, is it's written in such a way that he gives the performer parameters, some restrictions, but then within those he says, play, have a little fun with it, make your own choices, just as long as you're here or here. So every time you do these pieces, they're a little bit different because you make different choices as a performer. And one of his real hallmarks is he loved to collaborate with performers. He thought that was just great. That not only did he have creative ideas, but anybody who was playing it, who was a good musician, also had very worthwhile ideas. Let's put them together and see what we come up with. So that's the third piece, is for percussion. And then the last piece is a piece he wrote for me. As many of you know, he wrote a lot of beautiful music for me to sing. This was actually commissioned by the Spanish government to celebrate the voyage of Columbus, the 500th voyage. And Alcides wrote this piece. It's a little bit two different things. One is to celebrate sort of mankind's eternal quest for what's out there, what's beyond, what's next. But that there are always consequences for people, or for things that can happen that sometimes maybe are even unintended. So there's a center section which is a little bit rough in that way. I will say the Spanish government was not so thrilled when they first heard this piece, because it could be interpreted as somewhat critical of the so-called discovery of America. America was obviously here before any European got here. But that was the impetus for writing the piece and why he wrote it the way he did. And all of his pieces, I won't say they're all political, but they all have something to say. And certainly Woe has something to say. And it also is one of the best examples of his desire to integrate completely electroacoustic music with live performance. It has a pre-recorded part, it has live electronics, it has me, and really the goal is that while you're sitting here listening, maybe you're not sure what you're listening to. Oh, is that the tape? Oh, is that Meg? What? You know? So he really worked hard to integrate things in that way. He had a few tape-only pieces, but not many. Mostly he wrote with the electroacoustic part being a part of a live performance. That was his favorite thing to do with electroacoustic music. So I felt that it's probably my favorite piece, and I think it was one of his favorites. It is certainly the perfect distillation of our collaboration over 50 years. So that's the last piece we're going to hear. So without any more of my talking, let's listen to Alcides' music, and Julius will start off with Organo 5. Julius.
name is Sean Ferguson. I'm the Dean of the Schulich School of Music of McGill University. I'm very, very happy to welcome you all to the school for this event tonight. It's in that capacity, that, of course, that I'm standing in front of you today, but I'm also a professor of composition at the school and the co-director of the Digital Composition Studios, formerly the Electronic Music Studios, with my colleagues Elliot Britton and Philippe Leroux, who is on sabbatical this year. And the DCS has been very happy as well to collaborate in the production of the piece, of the concerts. And I'd like to mention, of course, I'm sure you're going to do it later, but I'll do it now, Richard and Nicholas, who've been helping make. Yes, thank you. I was hired as a professor in 2003 and became the director of the studios then. And I was hired after Alcides retired. I can't say I replaced him because Alcides is really irreplaceable. There's no question. But I wanted to mention one thing that Meg, that I've always thought that was very, very important, and that Meg mentioned in her opening words, which is that Alcides' DNA has remained fundamental to the character of the Digital Composition Studios and the Electronic Music Studios, and it's the focus on performance, on live performance, that continues to be the focus here. We still work with live performers in electronics, and colleague Marcelo Wanderling was here, but a second. Where's Marcelo? Sorry. With I think it's not working anymore, is it? But with, for instance, working with Marcelo with new digital musical instruments and gestural controllers, and that's again the legacy of Alcides, which is that sort of focus. There are other schools that focus on other things, on acousmatic music, but that's always been our focus, and that comes directly from Alcides. But before I was hired, I was a student at McGill. I was here for 10 years doing my master's and my doctorate in composition, and I never stayed with Alcides, and I never actually took a class with him. I took a class with Ben Cambreas, and we studied Alcides' music, and so of course I knew his music from that, and I knew Alcides' music from live performances that I enjoyed. He was a veteran concert producer and performer, and of course on the recordings that he would have done on Chelan Records, or Chelan Editions, excuse me, that he would have produced himself. So it was in that way that I knew him, and particularly through the group of the Electronic Music Studio. GEMS was this fantastic, and I see former GEMS members in the audience tonight. And this was a group that Alcides had formed long before the Contemporary Music Ensemble, long before the Center for Interdisciplinary Research in Music, Media, and Technology. And it was a way for students and to have contemporary music, to perform and compose contemporary music with or without electronics. And it really met an important need. And it was also a way for us to gain experience producing concerts, to learn what that was like, trying to promoting them, making them happen. And it was a fantastic experience for us. I was a member of GEMS for many, many, many years, and we did all sorts of fantastic projects together. And he was extremely generous as a programmer of concerts and as a performer. Of course, he performed his own music all over the world, and often with you, Meg. But he performed the work of many, many colleagues, both young and old. I was very fortunate to have him play a piece. I wrote a piece for percussion ensemble with piano when he was the piano soloist. It was a wonderful experience. And then the last thing that I remember that I would just mention is how generous he was, not just as a performer, but also as a mentor. And I just have such fond memories of the barbecues at his house that we would go to, and many of you, of course, he would invite, just a huge pack of students, young students and colleagues and friends to his house for these massive barbecues, and he would, I remember the delicious sausages that he would do, and he would, was such a wonderful host, and at the end of the evening he would always make us cappuccinos, and it was just such a wonderful, wonderful experience, and it was such a great way for us to, he was so wonderful at bringing people together, and it was such a terrific experience for us to make colleagues, to deepen relationships that we already had, meet new people, and those were such wonderful, wonderful times. And so I'm just one person And I didn't even study with Alcides. And he touched me so much in my life. And you think of all the people, and all the people who studied with him or didn't, all the people whose music he played, all the people who heard him play, what kind of an impact Alcides has had as a teacher, a performer, a composer, as a friend, and as a parent and a family member. And so, I mean, that's really all I have to say. I thank you all so much for being here, and look forward to the rest of the recital. Thank you.
Thank you.
En vos siladas, dem siladas nos. Siladas, 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 siladas de pequeños acasos, siladas, lanceros, reptiles, con cruces, pequeños acasos, inconstantes que vao, constantes que vao, gritos que van, con lanzas, que van con cruces, que van, oh, que van desviando, que van todos a la cruz, que van a la cruz, que van con lanzas, que van por plata, que van por oros, que van. Bajo las alturas, ideas infinitas de imaginación. Bajo las alturas, ideas infinitas.
Ideas infinitas. Alcides, da, imaginação. Da, imaginação.
Yeah, I try to always think positive, and maybe the music I write is also somehow positive. I hope they will hear and perceive my music, but not only through their ears and intellectually, that they will use all the skin and get the music with all the implicit microtonality and the penetrating force of percussion and other type of non-tempered noises, to absorb all that with their whole bodies through the skin. I don't know if it's possible, but it's a dream. I think that more than ever, I think that the music I write is my music. It's all Alcides Lanza, without any question. And that's some sort of arrival. If there is more to come, we don't know.
Alcides have the last word, eh? Again, thank you all so much for coming, and I have to give special thanks to Sean Ferguson, who made all this happen, and Richard Mackenzie, without whom I would be in tall grass indeed and quite lost. Thank you so much, Richard, and Nicholas, also for your assistance. And of course, our wonderful soloists tonight, Daniel Añez and Gina's in the back. Hi, Gina Ryan. And Julius Schepansky. I don't know where he is, in the back perhaps. There. Gave so generously of their time, and it took one phone call to get people on board here. It's just been so gratifying. I've had so much support to put this on, and I know it's a reflection of all of your affection for him and his for you, believe me. He just thought the world of all of you. So thanks again for coming, and if you'll give us just a few minutes to set up a table with some wine, and we'll move some chairs so we can move around and maybe share some memories, or just have a glass of good Argentinian wine, whatever you like. So.